going on, guys? Today is day 3 of our 3-day toy hunting weekend in Melbourne. If you've been following along with the previous episodes, you'll have seen my buddies Dean, Stan and I have hit up Melbourne's vintage toy and comic stores. We've rummaged the antique markets, but today we're bringing it home with the main event, the giant-sized vintage and modern toy fair. Let's rip into it. Thanks to Dino for organising the tickets, we made our way in with the early birds, and I was taken aback pretty quickly by not only the size of the fair, but the vintage toy focus. Unlike a lot of the collector events we have in Sydney like CollectorCon, which have a broad base of sellers and something for everybody, this is a dedicated toy fair, which is right up my alley. The first stall that greeted us right at the entrance was Out of Time Toys and Collectibles, and they had more vintage WWF wrestling merchandise than I've seen in a while, with WWF puzzles. They had a really cool makeup kit, and they had a Hulkamania frisbee that in hindsight I'm dirty I didn't grab, but it was the first stall we saw. They also had some carded Tales from the Crypt Keeper figures, a line that's been calling me, but I was a little bit iffy on the prices, and again it was the very first stall of the fair. The next stall I stopped at, Jungle Juice Toys, had something that I've been actively hunting for and something that I mentioned on our pre-trip live stream that I was hoping to find during this weekend, and that's the Remco Mini Monsters from 1981 with this Phantom of the Opera figure. As you can see, unfortunately he's missing the vinyl cape and has a little bit of wear on that left hand, but this is a line that I never see in the wild here in Australia, and after Lobos Collectables didn't have any of these Remco Mini Monsters, I just had to grab this, and I'm really stoked to make a start on what is just a classic vintage monster action figure line.
The monsters with glow-in-the-dark features.
Frankenstein is in a foul temper. Dracula flies in, fangs bared. Creature surfaces, dripping with rage. Phantom shows his fiendish face. I can't look. Is he ugly? The monster battle rages on. It's a howl.
The monsters with glow-in-the-dark features, each sold separately from Remco.
One thing I noticed pretty quickly was the volume of vintage Shogun Warriors at the fair. I've never seen so many of these awesome 24-inch scale figures that Mattel imported from Japan, drawing from different characters from separate franchises, and while not necessarily my thing, I think they look awesome, and it was so cool to see so many in one place. Still only a couple of aisles into my first lap of the fair, I spotted something that stopped me in my tracks. Lincoln Hawks and John Brzenk from the 1986 Lucco action figure line based on the Stallone movie Over the Top, which I absolutely love. These are figures that I've been on the lookout for years. They're roughly 7-inch in scale and have an awesome arm wrestling play feature.
You can have that one with it. Oh wow. You bought it too. This is even a little bonus. He's champion John Brazil.
Oh, that is so cool. Okay, so that's the card back.
That's the card
which
back.
card? Which figure is this for the Sly?
The card backs are universal. They're all for the same size. They just have on the bubble. They have a little sticker saying "Golden Boy Brazil."
Mate, that is unbelievable. I love this movie, but this toy line is just impossible to collect.
So you hit the bargain bins before the movie came out. They released the figures like in time for Christmas sales, but the movie didn't come out until like February and March. And so nobody bought them, and they were in the $1 bargain bins being thrown away.
Now I'm in a bit of a bind here because this is day 3 of a 3-day toy hunting weekend. I'm thinking about what I've already spent. I've still not seen most of the fare, and these figures are priced accordingly, so they're going to take pretty much whatever's in my wallet. So ultimately I made the decision to have a think about it and circle back after a lap. And spoiler alert, they were gone. The seller told me that there was actually someone at the store while I had them in my hand, and as soon as I put them down, he picked them up and purchased them. And I'm even still now, weeks later, furious at myself, but that's the game we play.
If you want it, Mike, you gotta take it. Do you hear me? You gotta take it.
My next pickup of the day came from a stall run by Will, one of the organisers of the toy fair, and it was cool chatting with Will. He had some really cool stuff. He had some awesome bootleg and knockoff goodness, like these turtle fighters and this really cool robot troop carded set. But what I ended up picking up from Will's table followed the theme of the Remco monster, and that's this really cool horror monster mechanical wind-up bank that came complete in the box, which has some incredible artwork on it. The box and the actual toy itself are kind of equally cool, just very different to one another. Like, I assume this was a different one, like a different...
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. I mean, that's what sells it to the kids, right? That's
Fully.
Like that Mochu style artwork, Castle Grayskull, Fright Zone sort of thing.
Now, I'm not sure exactly when this was released. I can't seem to find a date stamp, so if you know, definitely drop it in the comments. I just love the aesthetic of this thing, both the bank and the box with some of that beautiful artwork, and I just think it'll make a great display piece alongside some other classic vintage monster toys and merchandise. Now here's something we don't see very often in Australia, a tub of the mutagen ooze from the vintage TMNT figure line, along with the glow-in-the-dark turtle minifigure that came inside, and wasn't a slime gimmick just the mark of any good action figure line back in the day. Obviously Masters of the Universe had the slime, the real Ghostbusters had ectoplasm, Toxic Crusaders had toxic waste, and of course the Turtles had ooze.
Oh no! Retro Mutagen Ooze! The shredder got with all three!
We stopped at a stall that had some awesome vintage action figures, including the amazing 1994 Leonardo as Creature from the Black Lagoon from the second wave of the Universal Monsters TMNT crossover back in the day, which I absolutely love. Creature from the Black Lagoon Leo there. We've got the Slugger Slammer with the mouthpiece in, that's pretty cool. Yeah, Dr. L near complete, just missing the spear. Really nice condition, one of the 1992 figures that I'm still chasing. So definitely on the hunt for this guy. But they had some really cool carded figures as well, including a couple of vintage Skeleton Warriors released by Playmates in 1994. And I decided to pick up this one right here. This is Prince Lightstar. This is the last figure that I need to complete the Skeleton Warriors action figure line. Ideally, I would grab this guy loose because I've got all of the other figures in the line loose and complete. But it was a great price. I thought, why not we grab him and I get to complete all of the vintage Skeleton Warriors. You know, although I collect these figures loose, I think it's nice to have a carded representation in the collection, especially when you get to the end of collecting a line, especially when you've got a beautiful straight card, a nice clear bubble like this. I always love it when these 90s action figure lines had the die cut card backs just for something different. So yeah, really stoked to add Prince Lightstar to the collection. I think Skeleton Warriors is a super underrated action figure line. These human figures are cool, but the skeletons are just next level.
The Skeleton Warriors are led by foul men and dark and will stop at nothing. Once they were men, but served the force so evil it devoured everything, leaving only their bones.
The next store we stopped at was amazing Super Toy Hunter Collectibles, run by Fernando from Argentina. And shout out Fernando, he was a great dude. It was cool to chat with him and he had some amazing items.
A book that is in English, all right? It shows you all the Argentinian playful, Joxa.
Oh, that's so cool.
Everything that they've done Star Wars, they've done, Thundercats.
Superpowers.
Everything. I'll show you guys if you want.
That'd be amazing.
It's a very cool book.
Is this something from your collection? Is this something you're selling?
I'm selling this one. I got my own one at home.
Okay. Are you from Argentina?
Yes.
Oh, very cool.
And Ricky is from Uruguay.
Uruguay, nice.
Top toys here. We're very cool Rakande. Camouflage, maybe you heard about it.
Yeah.
So you got Top Toys, that's the brands Joxa, Playful, and Plastirama. That's the four, basically,
the four
companies
Argentine toy companies.
Yes, companies that they work with Mattel, Kena, and
so they...
so on.
Yeah.
Just show you like a quick, just from Star Wars stuff. You get original molds, Top Toys molds, the history, which is cool, talking about, the pink wing.
Yeah. Stratos,
very popular, that one. Then you got variations there.
Oh, look at that Modulock.
Yeah, the modulo, they call it the Christmas modulo.
Christmas modulock, that is so cool.
They call it back home. Look at that Panto. That Panto is very hard to get. Even in Argentina, I couldn't find them last time I went there.
Yeah.
To get it. It's no, the material.
No flock.
No flock. It's brown. Yeah, they got all the variations there. Very good book, man. And then you got... they call Guerreros del Mañana, which is
Warriors of Tomorrow.
Made, like a knockoff.
Yeah.
And then they've done the He-Man faces there.
Yeah.
These guys were wrestlers.
So cool.
They got wrestling. They got knockoffs, of the what they call the Golden Warriors.
Yeah, the Galaxy Warriors.
Galaxy Warriors.
Yeah.
Rambo. Rambo, actually they make the original Rambo as well. That's more Guerrero stuff. And then you got Fuerza T, which is number from 2000. Very controversial because they use all the molds from Motu, but they make a new line. So they have a bit of a issue with Mattel. They have to go to court, but they won at the end.
This next store blew me away. An army of vintage Shogun Warriors, a ton of boxed Batman vehicles, we've got boxed Evel Knievel from Ideal Toys, and then check out this incredible stretch monster from 1977.
Yeah, that is just so cool. So I imagine he's lost some of his elasticity,
well,
and you wouldn't want to test it at this point.
He got a leak, I reckon, even 20 years ago.
Oh, really?
I then filled him with polystyrene.
The nemesis of Stretch Armstrong, that is amazing. This kid is having an incredible time with this late 70s stretch monster.
They found the kid.
Is that right?
Yeah. He recreated the fucking...
He's done some of his best work in that, that packaging shot. So this is a Toll Toys Australian release. Late 70s. Stretch monster with a bit of a riff on the creature from the Black Lagoon. Very, very cool. Another Australian release, a Krona Toys Daredevil Stunt Cycle. This amazing Shogun Godzilla among just an army of Shogun Warriors.
Now I know I said that Shogun Warriors aren't necessarily my thing, but one of these days I could totally see myself picking up one of these vintage Shogun Godzillas. They're just a show-stopping piece, and this was a beautiful example with both fists, but I would definitely stress about travelling back to Sydney with that thing in my checked luggage. I then stopped at a stall run by Scott, a friend of the channel that I met previously, and Scott had some really cool stuff, including a set of these carded Amicable Hercuan knockoff figures.
So the Amicable Hercuan knockoff figures, which I've seen previously, I picked them up loose. They come with a turtle shell and a turtle head, so you can basically turn them all into a turtle figure. That is so wild. Interchangeable faces for more play value. And then we've got a whole heap more down here. These are crazy.
As I mentioned, I've seen these Amicable Hercuan figures loose before. I think I've got one loose figure in my collection, but I never realised that they were packed in with turtle heads and turtle shells, so you can transform them into a humanoid turtle, which is so dodgy but super cool. I then spotted a stall dedicated to a lot of the weird, gross out stuff that I love. They had a carded skateboard smack-ups figure, which is right up my alley, and they also had some of these 1960s Nutty Mads released by Marks, one of the earlier examples of the gross out aesthetic in figure form. This next stall I stopped at had a bunch of complete Mightyax Doom Zone playsets at some really good prices. Now unfortunately I already have all of those. Of the 18 Mightyax Doom Zone playsets, there's only one that I'm still on the lookout for, that's Mightyax Sinks Nautilus. But they did have some horror heads that I don't already have in my collection, so I just had to scoop them up. And here we have Mightyax Tangles with Lockjaw and Mightyax Hounds Werewolf, both complete with some really cool minifigures and awesome little details. So I'm stoked to leave Melbourne now with 3 new complete vintage Mightyax sets. We've got the 2 horror heads and the Mightyax Traps Radis that I picked up from Lobos. So now I get to get geared up for my next vintage Mightyax playset review video.
Know what's inside, Max?
Your worst nightmare!
Mightyax and the new horror heads. Horror in the palm of your hand.
Got more vintage wrestling figures here than I reckon I've ever seen at a toy fair before. So we've got the LJN ring with some of the original LJN wrestlers, and we've got $10 Hasbros. Gotta love that. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing any here that I need. I still love seeing the bros at a toy fair. We've got some of the thumb wrestlers. Stack more LJN wrestlers here.
That makes sense. Yeah, the box is not nice, but it's not the perfect one to take it out.
With the big Hulk stuff.
This is pretty awesome. The mid-90s era Stretch Armstrong along with his dog Fetch Armstrong and the Stretch Limmer. I haven't seen these in years. I remember them in commercials and toy catalogs back in the day, so these were really cool to see. Browsing some carded figures at the Ultimate Figure Protection store, which sells acrylic cases for mint-on card figures, I grabbed this Frankenstein from the 1993 Tales from the Crypt Keeper action figure line by Ace Novelties. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a line that I've found myself drawn to recently, and I just thought this was a bargain price for a vintage mint-on card action figure, one of just 8 in the line, and the Frankenstein is awesome. He's got a wicked head sculpt, and those arms and legs are interchangeable. The figure itself is in really nice shape, nice straight card, nice clear bubble, so I just had to grab it. I was definitely feeling the monster vibe today because I also picked up this wind-up vintage skull, which was marketed as a ghost skull and sold as part of a counter display back in the day. Pretty random, but too cool not to pick up. So that was it for my pickups at the Giant Size Vintage and Modern Toy Fair. It was a cracker of a day, such a strong lineup of vintage toys, but also plenty in the way of modern toys and collectibles, as well as trading cards, comics, and so much more. So I definitely recommend the Giant Size Fair, and I hope that I can get back down to Melbourne maybe once a year, at worst every second year, to take in the fair, because it was a blast. And shout out to Will and Andrew, who obviously do an amazing job organising that event. Aside from toy hunting, it was a blast catching up with mates like Ben and Ian from Lobos Collectables 2.0 who made the trip, as well as buddies like Simon and Lee, and it was cool to see what those boys picked up. And Lee actually brought with him some spare Kenner Superpowers figures for Dean and I to check out.
So I'll grab that one for Matt.
Okay. Yeah, that's 7,000. Yeah. That's in yen.
He's got his Trident or whatever that thing is known
That
as.
is a repro.
Oh, is it?
That's a repro. The
Okay.
Trident is a repro.
That hurts me a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Is Green Lantern
He's complete? With
complete?
His lantern, yeah.
Okay, I'll get him.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a nice one, complete. Because he holds it well.
I don't know. He does really hold it nicely.
Yeah,
I don't know if. Do you want to check if the power actions work? The power actions to me aren't important.
Yeah,
I'm not super fussed on the power actions,
I'm not gonna,
and I don't really like to test them. You know what I mean?
I really don't like that feeling of testing your
Yeah.
Dino scored a nice Batman, and I got myself this really nice complete Green Lantern along with a super clean Wonder Woman figure. Unfortunately missing the lasso, but in beautiful condition. I could not say no to this. I also picked up a nice complete Joker figure for Matt from Keep On Collecting, so big shout out to Lee for bringing those. Now that was it for the toy fair, but not for the toy hunting, because after 3 days scouring Melbourne's vintage toy stores, antique markets and the Giant Size Toy Fair, what do? We head back to Lobos Collectables. Plus, I was still dirty at myself about those over-the-top figures, so I just had to buy something else.
If you want it, Mike, you gotta take it.
Now, I didn't do much filming this time. Check out my episode from day one where we spent hours at Lobos, or also Dean's coverage over at Totally Tailored Retro Hunters if you want to see more of Lobos Collectables. But I did grab one last pickup for the trip, and that's a figure for my vintage Attack of the Killer Tomatoes collection released by Mattel in 1991. This is Ketchuk, and he'll display great with my other tomatoes. But with that, that brings us to the end of our 3-day toy hunting trip in Melbourne. A big shout out to Dean and Stan who joined me and made it so much fun. A shout out as well to all the store staff and store holders that looked after us. And my buddies Lee and Simon who took us out each night. And everybody else we hung out with. It was an absolute blast. But I hope you guys have enjoyed these videos. If you've made it this far, you're a dead set champion. I hope to hear from you in the comments. As always, you're more than welcome to hit us up on Instagram at Crusher Collects. I'll see you guys back soon for the next one, and until then, cheers.